Hey everybody, it's me, Alice Blue, and I've got more patch notes for you. So let's get right to the patch notes, yeah? These are going to be the patch notes for September 14th. What's new? This week was spent working on a few lingering issues in prep for the open beta weekend. We have added tool visuals for harvesting, completely revamped the Northreach dungeons, and added a little flavor to large creatures in the form of some camera shake. A summary of the upcoming crafting changes can also be found below, which we would love to hear your feedback on. We have more armor coming from the art team, and a few new zones just around the corner. Thanks for testing! Sweet new zones, that's going to be awesome. We are seeking focused feedback on these items this week. Northreach Dungeon, both difficulty and pacing. Proposed crafting changes. What are your thoughts? Bug fixes and improvements. Tech. Fixed when an ashen creature spawns, your client should automatically target it if you were just targeting the NPC that spawned it. Improved humanoid locomotion animation speeds now vary slightly with character size. Larger characters will play their movement animations slightly slower, while smaller characters will play their animations slightly faster. This has no impact on actual movement speed. Fixed some animation events were not properly firing, which meant some audio cues were not triggering, especially for bears. Fixed right-clicking an equipment item in your bag that has two possible target slots, like bracers and shoulders, will now result in the item being equipped in the empty slot if one is present. Otherwise, it will replace the first slot. Adjusted some logic around the show and hide buttons in your equipment panel. This required some data to change, so your previous settings of show and hide for the helm and Emberstone will need to be re-selected. Added tech to support separate indoor and outdoor call for help and sensor profiles. This gives us a bit more control over the dungeon experience. Fixed visual effects for a number of lasting effects, confusion, stun, daze, webbed, should now last the duration of the buff and debuff. Adjusted reduced memory overhead on login selection and creation scene. Adjusted slightly increasing the volume of footstep and UI audio. Environment and art. MISC environmental bug fixes in Dryfoot and Northreach. Fixed Meadowlands road signs should now say stuff. Fixed skinning of bear armor shoulders. What? Skinning of bear armor shoulders? UI. Added armor weight panel now has a tooltip. Added egress points now have a tooltip saying they will return you to the dungeon's start. Quests. MISC grammatical fixes. Adjusting how discovery quest objectives are handled. Let us know if any funny business occurs here. We're still trying to track down the cause of some of the discovery objectives not progressing. Design. Added a number of NPC abilities now have application effects. Confusion, stun, daze, and webbed. More to come in the future. Effect applicators, such as those from Ember Rings and environmental webbings, now have associated visual effects. Greatly increased grub bat eardrop rate. Increased range on Quillback Spine's ability. Lumberjacks in Redshore are more plentiful. Adjusted the size of some rare mobs, such as Misha. New stuff. Central Veins North 2.0. The dungeon access via Northreach has been completely revamped. The focus of this redesign is as follows. Simplifying the dungeon layout. More strategic placement of Ember Rings and egress points. More distinguishable wings of the dungeon by level, mob types, rare spawns, and props. Ember Drift improvements. Reducing the size and complexity. Increasing challenge and mob diversity. adding unique characteristics to these areas that add extra challenge. Utilization of new indoor sensors and call for help tech. This also applies to the dungeon accessed via New Haven Valley. Some mobs, notably spiders and humanoids, sensor ranges have been reduced within the veins. Some mobs, notably spiders and humanoids, call for help ranges have been reduced within the veins. Note that if you had logged out inside of the northern section of CV, your character will now be relocated to Northreach. This only applies to 2 of you. It was me. Also, by the way, I just want to clarify that central veins, both sections of central veins, are technically the same dungeon. That is why they look so much like each other. It's an underground smugglers tunneling network. Of course, it looks the same. It has the same name. It's the same dungeon. It's just split up. Anyways, so yeah, that's why it looks the same. Harvesting tool visuals. For too long, you've harvested plants, logs, ore, and carcasses with invisible tools. This ends now. This week, you can finally stop looking like a fool and start looking like a real adventurer. Yay! Different tools of the same type do not currently have different visuals. This may be something we can accommodate in the future. Mounting things in your hand is always a huge pain in the neck, so please let me know if anything goes nuts. Camera shake. This week we're adding a new system that could make large creatures feel a bit larger. It involves slightly shaking the camera when the creature walks or falls to the ground. Ideally, this effect will be subtle enough to not be an annoyance. It is currently enabled for bear roars and ridgebacks. Please let us know if this causes any issues. Augment system improvements. Weapon and armor augment tech got some love this week. Previously, augments were only able to provide a single bonus. Now they can provide multiple bonuses. We have also finalized the tech for how armor augments expire. Here's a quick rundown of what to expect when augments become available, hopefully with the next big crafting update. Augmenting an item will bind that item to you. Augments can be replaced by other augments if you so desire. Augments cannot be removed once applied. Some augments may come with positive and negative stats. Weapon augments can provide dice mod, damage percent, hit, penetration, and flank. Have fixed expiration based on the number of hits done with that specific weapon. Stat bonuses from weapon augments do not show on your stat sheet as they only apply when that weapon is used for damage. Armor augments can provide any regular stat, regen, movement, resilience, etc. Have a fixed expiration based on the time your character has spent in combat, not combat stance, but active combat. Stat bonuses from armor augments will show on your stat sheet. Croc armor. Crocodile armor has been delivered from the art team and has made its way into the project. It is not yet available to players, but should be the near future via recipes and or drops. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. We finally got our boots. Raven. The art team just delivered their latest creation, and we hope to have it in-game soon. Look at that thing. Holy smokes. Works in progress. To see a full list of what is currently in progress, head on over to this thread. I will do my best to update this list on a weekly basis and highlight the differences from the previous week with bold font. Below, I will highlight some of the upcoming changes in more detail. Crafting profession revamp. Timeline 1 to 2 weeks. Actually, we're not going to read all this shit. Okay, we are going to read all this shit. The more we discussed crafting specs and the mechanics behind them, the more we realized that a specialization was not the right direction to go. Our adventuring system works great due to the shared experience between the base and the spec. With crafting, however, this design does not quite work, as there are some odd edge cases with experience that would force us to change the rules. Because of this, we are going to simplify things by splitting the crafting professions into 8 individual professions. Light weaponsmith, one-handed weapons, small medium shields, and banners. Heavy weaponsmith, two-handed weapons and heavy shields. Bowyer, ranged weapons and ammo. Tailor, inner armor. Outfitter, medium armors such as leather. Armorsmith, heavy armors such as metal. Provisioner, food, drink, potion, and other consumables. Tinker, tools, jewelry, and belts. Okay, I like that more. I do. Recipes will now be split into base and imbued variants. Base recipes will be purchasable from merchants, but do not allow for the usage of flux. Imbued recipes will be found throughout the world, acquired via quests or drops, and require flux component. New dungeon, 2 to 3 weeks. Charles has been hard at work building a new dungeon. There's still a lot of work left to do before it is game ready, but we wanted to give you a quick preview. The scale of this thing is massive, which means we will be opening it up one chunk at a time. The location of this dungeon is not yet determined, but it will likely end up below Red Shore. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, it looks pretty huge. Mob leashing updates. Timeline 1 to 2 weeks. As it currently stands, every mob has a soft leash distance. Outside of this distance, if a mob is in the idle or wandering state, they will elect to return to their point of origin before resuming their idle or wander. Implementing a hard leash or a reset state for an NPC is something we are considering, but it has a few extra complications, some of which are for those who like to kite, and issues with different zones and regions having different average leash distances for NPCs. In fact, we already implemented this tech, but it is currently disabled because it causes some funny business in a number of the above described scenarios. Known issues. Sky Dome occasionally gets stuck. When this happens, you should notice that the clouds stop animating. When this occurs, change your quality setting to something else and then back, and it should reset the skybox. Loot roll occasionally does not trigger, leaving the loot open to anyone. We are currently investigating. After resizing your game client, some of the buttons in the upper right may no longer be clickable. Terrain textures have a bit too much tiling. This will be resolved shortly. Characters can get stuck in any looping animation if they do not properly complete. This is most noticeable for strikers using a bow. Not all ember rings and or points of interest are proper map discoveries. This is especially true in Dryfoot and Redshore. Discoveries and map uncovering is a work in progress and will be revisited soon. Deconstructing crafted items returns junk 100% of the time. You cannot roll on loot while unconscious. Not all clothing and armor has visuals. Dragging a group nameplate will make it act a little bit weird. Sometimes make it act weird. Typing text chat might become invisible. Unfocus your window. Fiddle around with it a bit. Should get resolved. If it doesn't, you'll have to relog. Or just try going into a different zone. Sometimes that helps it fix itself as well. Sometimes when you respawn, you don't end up with the proper ember ring. When this happens, please report the location that you died. Mac OS, zooming the camera while holding the right mouse button can cause your chat window to scroll. This is not intended behavior, and at some camera angles, The sun may go dark. This should not happen frequently, but it is readily reproducible at some locations. Investigating a fix. Alright, you guys, that is all. Thank you so much for watching. I seriously appreciate you, and I really hope to see you in game.